Welcome to the Pitcher Perfect podcast. This is episode 1, and I am one of your hosts, Kat Osterman, a 3-time Olympian, 4-time All-American at Texas, and I am here with my co-host, Holly Pierce. We are going to kick off this new podcast today with a hot topic, and Holly, I'll go ahead and let you introduce this topic.
Well, I guess officially the name of this topic is Jack of all trades, master of none. And we're going to deep dive into talking about how many pitches do you really need as a pitcher to be successful, and at what ages really should you be learning multiple pitches, and kind of all those things. I think that it is a hot topic. It's definitely relevant, especially at the younger ages, the kids that are young and they want to learn all these things at once when, they're not necessarily great at anything yet. So we're just going to talk about that. I think it's a really relevant topic and something that is going to come into play pretty much for every pitcher at some point, whether you're starting out or, even the older levels. So, I think it's going to be some healthy perspective and maybe a little different than you may be hearing from your pitching coaches or your coaches.
I think it's such an important topic because you have so many pitchers, and we're both in the travel scene, but you have pitchers come to you and sometimes they name off like 8 pitches, and I'm just like, wait, there's not really 8 pitches, and then you say, hey, okay, let's throw 10 of each. How many do you actually control? And then you kind of whittle down, okay, maybe they don't have 8 pitches, they really have 2 or 3, but to your point, how many do you really need? At what point should we be learning them? And I think that's what point should you be learning them, to me, is probably the most important part of this, aside from just, hey, you don't have to have everything all at once. So I'm excited to dive into this with you. I'll start and just say you do the same work I do, as far as you're with Tony and the Firecrackers, and I'm with Scott, and we oversee the pitching and stuff. You've been doing it a little bit longer than I have in the travel ball scene, but when Scott asked me to take over and do, the pitching development with the Bombers, one of my first, I don't want to say tasks, because he didn't task me with it, I wanted to know, is I reached out to, probably about 10 college coaches and was like, okay, if you could tell travel ball pitchers and their parents 3 things, like what would they be? And I can't tell you how many times I got college coaches that said, come in with 1 or 2 dominant pitches, and then depending on if it's 1 or 2 really good pitches. Mm-hmm. You don't have to come in with 5, you don't have to come in with 6, but come in with at least 2 that you can throw on command almost in any count. One of them is your out pitch, and then something that offsets that, and then everything else is complementary.
Yeah.
And I've preached that over and over because I got that feedback from the likes of Beth Turina at LSU, my old boss Ricky Woodard at Texas State, who she's been there 20 plus years. I think this might be 20. It's either 24 or 25. So she's seen a lot of pitchers come in, and she has competed and done well at the mid-major level. I asked around to a lot of these coaches, like, tell me what you want to see from pitchers. Yeah. And I think so many pitchers don't believe it, but then you hear it from a college coach, and it's like, why? You mean I don't need 5 pitches?
Yeah.
And then that makes me look at them and say, okay, what good is 5 pitches if you only control them 50% of the time? And that's where with this podcast title, Jack of all trades, master of none, you can say you throw 5, but have you mastered any of those 5? And so to me, that's like it's not even a question. It's just kind of the caveat. Like, pitchers think they need to have more and more pitches, and you could be a 1-pitch pitcher, 2-pitch pitcher and get people out by how you locate them. So
I also think what's eye-opening to people is hearing that a lot of the big-time programs, even their pitchers at those levels, their pitchers really are only utilizing 2 or 3 pitches consistently. I mean, they're not throwing 5 pitches throughout the game. I know we've got 2 pitchers right now at Stanford, and one of them, Kylie Chung, she came in to speak to our range class, and that's one of the things she told our classroom is one of the things she learned being at Stanford was they really only utilize like 3 pitches, all of their pitchers. And now when you master a pitch, you're able to turn 1 pitch into many. And what I mean by that is when you've mastered a pitch and you can really throw it, that 1 pitch on different planes, maybe even different speeds, take a little off, put a little on, you can bring it out of the zone, you can bring it into the zone, you can bring it up, down, all of those things. You've now, that mastery of that 1 pitch, say it's even a screwball, right? You've mastered a screwball to the ability that you can give it different looks because it's mastered. You have that ability and that command to turn that 1 pitch into different looks. So you don't necessarily need 5 different pitches when you can do 5 different things with that 1 screwball that you've mastered, or curve, or drop, rise, whatever it is. But that, I think, is really eye-opening to talk to college athletes, college coaches, like you said, and hear that there's many of the top programs that their pitchers are really not throwing 5 or 6 different types of pitches throughout a game against top competition and top hitters, and they're being dominant.
Correct. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and you look at any college game and if you charted pitches, and you hear the announcers talk about, well, this pitcher only throws this pitch 19% of the time. So you're talking about 19 pitches out of 100, and now let's say they throw 120 every game. Like you're throwing so few change ups or whatever that pitch is, that's at 19%, but you throw it enough that a hitter has to think about it a little bit, right? But it doesn't have to be the pitch that you live on. And I think so many pitchers think it's like I have to have this pitch and it has to work all the time. And sometimes you don't have to have that pitch. I am one of them. I mastered a rise ball at a very young age. And when we say mastered, I will tell you 9 months in the driveway throwing it with my dad, never throwing it in a game because it had to have the right spin. I had to be able to locate it where we wanted it to go and not miss over the plate with it before I could throw it in games. And then we got into a situation where I don't know why all of a sudden the rise ball worked. I don't know if my dad just let me throw it for fun or what, but I got to throw it in a game and all of a sudden, he realized it was getting swing and misses and I was locating it well, so then we were able to throw it. But one, I learned it to master it. 9 months in the driveway without throwing it in a game. I don't know about you, but I have had kids that I teach a pitch to, and like 3 weeks later, they're throwing it in a game. And I'm sitting here going, first of all, what confidence do we have in it? Because we haven't even like challenged it in a bullpen yet. And two, how do you think in 3 weeks you learned and you know where it's going and it's going to work? And I think that's the other part of when it doesn't work, then they're like, oh, that pitch doesn't work. Well, it was only 3 weeks. Like you didn't give yourself a chance to learn it, yet alone master it. And so back to my story is a matter of like, 9 months in the driveway before we ever threw it in a game. And then after that, I lost my changeup. I had a really good changeup up until I started learning the movement pitches. So I'll always tell people, like, never give up on your changeup. I didn't mean to, but kind of did, lost it. But if you go watch college games, I throw it just enough. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it gets a swing and miss, sometimes it gets a strikeout looking. But I threw it enough that people couldn't say, oh, she's only going to throw hard stuff.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, I will never say, oh yeah, I have a changeup. Like that's one of my pitches. I'll say I have a rise, a curve, a drop, and I threw an off speed in there sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, late in my career, I learned an off speed curve and I dominate, like I did master that. But when it comes to college, I threw a changeup sometimes because I had enough control of it, but it wasn't one of my main pitches. And now don't get me wrong. I'm just going to, again, PSA, do not ever lose your changeup. Keep your changeup. That's not the pitch you want to be your sometimes pitch.
Yeah.
But, because something else was mastered, that pitch now could be an auxiliary pitch and not have to be something that's relied on all the time. I just think so many, and again, this will get in, and you and I will get into this, but so many kids and parents want to constantly be doing something new.
Yeah.
Instead of learning how to do what you do well, really, really well. And mastery gets boring. Mastery is going out there and throwing a whole bullpen of just that pitch and trying to spot it at different locations, or trying to throw it, like if let's say drop ball, throw it for a strike, throw it out of the zone, throw it for strike, but a believable out of the zone, right? Like let me use strings and go over and right under, over and right and over and over and over.
Yeah.
If you're going to master something and be good at this craft of pitching, because that's what it is, it's a craft, it's an art, you have to be okay practicing and being bored sometimes. Because it gets boring. It does. But it should start, to me, and you can correct me if you have a different opinion, it starts with your fastball when you learn.
100%.
Like I said, I didn't throw a rise ball for 9 months. I threw a fastball and a changeup from first year 12U all the way till second U, 14U, basically. Now, granted, I understand the game has evolved and a little bit here and there to where technology is different, bats are different, may not be able to get away with that as much. But by and large, if you told me to hit a spot, I hit it most of the time because that's what my practice was. Throwing good fastballs, good heights, good corners, throwing the changeup, good corners. Doesn't mean I didn't miss sometimes. I mean, I was young, but like our practice wasn't, hey, just go throw fastballs. It was very particular about this is the spot we're trying to hit. We're trying to hit it X out of 5 times, X out of 10 times. Okay, now we're going to the next spot. And trust me, it gets boring. But as you see yourself go from hitting 5 out of 10 to then 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 consistently, like now you're getting confidence and we're rolling.
Right.
But it takes being that meticulous, even with the fastball and then the changeup, before you add on something now that's moving. Like if you cannot control the pitch that's supposed to go dead straight and master that, why would we throw something that moves? That's
Yeah,
always my question.
and that goes back to what I was saying about when you master a pitch, you can give that pitch different looks, and that really does start with the fastball. Because once you've mastered the fastball, now you can spot it inside, you can spot it outside, you can bring it up a little bit, you can bring it down in the zone, bring it out of the zone, throw it for a first pitch strike. I mean, statistically, 75% of hitters take the first pitch. A lot of people are just not swinging on the first pitch, and so if you can get away with just spotting it for a strike, get a freebie there, because there's a lot of hitters that don't swing at the first pitch, and then you work it out of the zone. Then maybe you throw even that fastball, like as a show me pitch, get them off the plate, whatever. Then you work it back outside. But every pitch has a purpose. One pitch is connected to the next, and it's really hard to strategize even with a fastball. You can strategize with a fastball if you know where it's going, and then you're just kind of playing chess by putting it in different spots and trying to get the batter to guess and do different things. Then you add in an off speed in there as your number 2 pitch, where you're able to keep people off balance. And that's a great starting point for any pitcher, because like I said, yeah, you can make a fastball even have different looks and different purposes. Changing contact points for hitters by being able to locate it is gonna produce outs, but you can't do that if you don't know where the ball's going. And that really does start with a fastball.
Yeah, well, and even as you get older, so I had a kid that was primarily drop ball, curveball pitcher. We stayed down in the zone, but she had enough command over a fastball that we could throw a fastball high and in. And so many people, after the first 2 innings of the game, they'd be like, "Watch the rise ball, watch the high pitch," and it's like she's utilizing a high fastball, but because she's down in the zone and able to spot this thing right. And has, I mean, don't get me wrong, good trajectory because she's a tall, lanky kid. But people are thinking it's a rise ball. And all we're doing is spotting a fastball in a good location. And she'd get swing and misses because finally something was up in the zone and hitters jumped at it.
Right.
And so I think too many times we feel like we have to have a rise ball. And it's like, do you have to have the rise ball? Can you spot a high fastball until you master these? And then maybe we can learn a rise ball. Mm-hmm. Because I think, too, like so many people want to get away from, I don't throw a fastball. First of all, there's nothing wrong with throwing a fastball if you can spot it well. I believe, and Montana can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I really believe Montana Fouts threw a fastball outside to right-handed hitters for like the first 2 years of her college career. She didn't really like make it curve. She just spotted a really good fastball, and she threw hard enough it happened, but she also spotted it and spun it well enough that it didn't get demolished. So there's a place for it.
I would say Megan Langenfeld. I mean, she was she's about your time frame. Was she a little bit before you maybe? But
she was right after me, but
I mean, her screwball truly was a fastball that she had such good command of. I mean, she won a College World Series by throwing it on the corner and then inching it in and inching it in and inching it in and just being able to spot it. And it really didn't have much break to it. And I don't mean that as a knock. Like, it was a fantastic pitch. The strength was her ability to locate it and pinpoint it, I mean, on the dot in every situation to every batter in any count.
Yeah, and I was thinking of her when we were talking about this at the intro, too. It was like she mastered a screwball. She really did. Going back to your point, too, of college pitchers and, like, your Stanford pitcher that came in, they each throw 3 pitches. My first real protege at Texas State was Randy Rupp. She came in, and when she came in, she'll tell you, she threw a rise, a screw, a change, and had a little bit of a curve. And I got her in the bullpen, and I'm like, you have a really good curve that someone hasn't taught you how to control. She had a really good changeup that they didn't throw enough because, you're afraid that high school hitters who aren't as good are going to hit it, whatever. Her rise ball was never close to the zone, and I really wanted to take it away from her, but she was like, that's my best pitch. And I was like, I don't think it's going to be your best pitch, but let's just wait. And I let her throw it the whole fall, like all of our, I think we get 8 games. And I asked her at the end, how many times did they swing and miss at it? And she was like, like 2 in 8 games. And I'm like, right. So is that a pitch we're going to really utilize if it's never close to the zone? And then her screwball, we threw it her freshman year, and I think she gave up like 30 home runs, and 15 to 20 of those were on the screwball. So after her freshman year, like, okay, we need something else because this pitch is either a ball or it's getting crushed. There's like no in between. So essentially, her sophomore, junior, she makes All-American because we threw 2 pitches. We threw a curveball and a changeup. And we knew how to throw the curveball on the corner, and we knew how to stair-step it out. We knew how to throw our changeup on the corner and stair-step it out, as well as stair-step it down. Like, she knew if this kid is swinging, fouling, I'm going to throw this changeup over the plate, but in the dirt. Like, we learned that. And so she mastered, literally mastered two pitches, started throwing the curveball a little bit as a backdoor to get that inside corner eventually, but literally two pitches and she was an All-American at a mid-major. And let me preface, she also beat Texas 4 times.
Yeah. And again, always continue back to the point is when you've mastered it, you can do so many things with those two pitches. It's not just one pitch gives you one look or two pitches gives you two looks. Like to a batter, they're seeing lots of different looks because you're throwing it in different spots, but that does not happen if it's not mastered. You haven't mastered the command
Right.
and the ability to put it where you want to put it in certain situations.
So I'm going to ask you, define, like, when do you say one of your kids has it mastered? Like, what are the elements of mastery?
So in the range class, we do sets of when they're throwing into the rings, they're doing sets of 5, they're charting, and their ultimate, minimum is 3 of 5 in a set that they're able to hit that spot, and hopefully getting to a point where they're throwing it 4 of 5, 5 of 5. Obviously, no pitcher's perfect, but their ability, we always start with whatever their bread and butter is. And every class, like no matter what the topic is, we may be working sequences, but that first line, 5 sets of 5, is always on their bread and butter and continuing to being able to hit an intended spot with absolute consistency and having the ability to move that spot. So if my bread and butter is my curve, I'm going to have maybe different rings, different targets, whatever you want to use set up, and I'm able to hit it 4 of 5, 3, 4, 5 out of 5 times here, and then I can bring it out 2 balls, and I can bring it out 2 balls, and I can bring it down a ball. But to me, mastery is the ability, I would classify it as being able to hit it. We say in class about 66% of the time, and that would be like average, not just elite players, but the average player minimum. But to the elite, it's higher than that. Most of our pitchers are like it. I would say to say they've mastered it are more at like 80%, and not just in one spot, multiple spots.
How often do you look at, when you say mastery, looking at correct spin?
I'll be honest, I like to put the girls on Rapsodo on our team just to kind of see really what their strengths are. And usually it tells a story that we kind of already knew. So if there's a pitch for them that's really working, and then we see that it's got like close to perfect spin and a whole lot of break on it, and then we can continue like, okay, yeah, that's what we thought, like that's your bread and butter, let's continue to work on that. But I don't know, it's like I think there needs to be balance. In my mind, my opinion is balance between data and then actual in-game scenarios, because sometimes on computer and data metrics versus we're on the field as coaches trying to win games, right? So in a lab setting where you're just looking at metrics, a lot of times it doesn't tell exactly the same story that's translating onto the field. So I just feel like finding a balance between using data for informational purposes, trying to see what the girls are good at, where can we get a little bit better if a pitch is getting hit, and then we go back and we look at the data and we're like, okay, well, this is probably why it's getting hit. Like it's really not, moving in the right way. It's not breaking, and your spin rate's not very high on it. Like that makes sense why it's getting hit in the games. But again, I just kind of feel like you have to balance when you're a coach that's making lineups and trying to win games. It's very different than a coach that's just in the lab only refining skills, but they're not out there making a lineup and using those pitchers and calling pitches and stuff like that. So to me, yeah, I look at it. Yeah, we look at it. I think that there's value to it, but I don't place all my eggs in that basket either, because sometimes there's just, I know, we've got one of my good friends, she did all the data metrics at UCLA when Rachel Garcia was there, one of your pitchers. On the computer and on paper, some of the pitches that worked best in games weren't necessarily, that's not what the data showed, but that's what happened in the games. So again, it's like balance between what's actually going on the field and then what it says when you get to work in the lab.
Yeah, I only asked that because like part of my mastery, especially let's talk rise ball, and you say data, and yes, this is data, but it was before the data era. So like I threw with electrical tape on my ball, and like it was, we've got to get the line straight, right? Like it couldn't be off center, it couldn't be this way, like it was straight. And eventually I learned that if it went this way, it curved one way. Now if it went this way, it usually didn't jump as much, but if it was going a little, I could make a little curving rise kind of thing if I needed to go in for, especially for me going into righties, right? But that mastery of good spin, and it doesn't have to be like the most perfect spin rate, and sometimes those machines do spin efficiency and it's not always right. Right? Like, I mean, it'll tell you what it is and you still see a ball move or you get a lot of swing and misses because of your ability to locate it or your ability to tunnel it with something else. Like, there's things that change that. I just like to talk to kids about the correct spin, more so because you are probably going to get better movement in the long run if you can master that. But you also said something when you were talking about the coaches that are obviously making lineups versus the coaches that are in the labs, in pitching lessons. And I think that's the other part of mastery to me is as a pitching coach, I say not allowing, but I mean, really we have control of what we teach in our lessons, right? And so how do you, this is rhetorical, not to you directly, how do you let people move on to pitches when you see on a weekly basis that they haven't mastered spots, right? And so I think that's part of it too, is pitching coaches don't teach a new pitch just because a kid's getting bored or just because mom and dad came in and said that Sally on her team has 5 pitches and little Katie's upset because she only has 2. Well, if her 2 are better than Sally's 5, she's on a better trajectory. And so I think that to me goes too as well. Like, one, trust pitching coaches that have been able to develop pitchers and the process they do with that. But 2, trust the process of mastering a pitch and then adding a new one. You cannot, show me anybody that can master 3 tasks at once. Like, please. And then tell me someone that can master 3 tasks at once from ages 13 to 18 when your body's still growing, you're still maturing, so many changes are happening, not to mention, let's just talk about our emotional states at that age. But we want them to master 3 tasks at one time. To me, it's just, it's mind-blowing. And I don't always believe that you can only learn 1 pitch at a time. Don't get me wrong, but like I literally learned 1 pitch at a time. And I think in the long run, it forced me to understand what each pitch truly does, where it's the most successful, where it's not the most successful, and then keep throwing that pitch in my bullpen, obviously, but now we're going to add this other pitch. What is it supposed to do? How does it play off this pitch? How do these 2 pair? All of those things. And so I think there's something to be said about just not getting bored because it takes a while. It takes a while to master things.
Yeah.
What is the like general consensus? 10,000 hours or something like that?
Well, I think it's everybody should take note of the source and where this information is coming from. So for you, this is coming from someone who's accomplished pretty much all there is to accomplish within this sport. And it's easy for people to sit back and say, yeah, but she's like a plus elite pitcher. She can live and die on 3 pitches because those 3 pitches are plus pitches and they're so good. But listen to what Kat's saying is, how did they get that good? How did those pitches get that good? And this is what people need to hear. It's like listen to somebody that was able to master and win with a few pitches. How'd you get there? That's, I think, Tony says this in range class all the time, if you want to be happy, you mirror what's another happy person doing. If you want the ability to be successful, listen to the people that have a success in the sport and what they're saying got them to that point. And I hope that all the parents, pitchers, coaches that are listening out there, pitching coaches too, that, no matter how much pressure you get from parents or players, and you may feel scared to lose clientele because you feel like you try to people please sometimes. I think as coaches, especially as pitching coaches, if that's your livelihood, there is a certain level of people pleasing because you got to keep your clientele to make a living. Be firm in what you know about the game as far as, what these kids really need at what ages. And if you don't feel as a pitching coach that they're ready to move on, like stand firm in your belief and let them know why. Like let them know that this is what those pitchers that have turned out to be the best, this is what they've done. This is their history and their experience, and we're trying to replicate what we already know works.
I'll even go so far, like mastery of mechanics. So my first pitching coach His name was Tim Timmons. He's since passed, but he was responsible for a number of really good pitchers that came out of Houston. His philosophy, and some people bought into it, some people didn't. My dad fully bought into it. He wanted you to be practicing for a year with his mechanics before you ever threw in a ball game. So I did. My dad and I went to lessons, practiced in the driveway for a year before I ever pitched in a ball game. And some people are like, wow. And I'm like, but at the same time, why would you put Sally in a game if she's only been pitching for 2 months and really doesn't know what her body's doing and you want her to throw strikes? You know? So it's like, while everyone wants to be like, oh my God, that's a crazy philosophy, but is it really that crazy? Because now we're talking about our daughter's success and we get really bent out of shape when it doesn't come right that, but you put her in a position where she'd only been doing something for 2 months. And even hypothetically, if she's going to lessons once a week, so she's had 8 lessons. She's been taught something by an individual 8 times, and you want to go put her in competition with it. So I think it goes from mechanics to pitches, both. Like making sure that we know what our body's doing, what our pitch is doing, where we need to put it, all of those things. But I'll say to me, like, pitchers, do not be afraid to get hit because you only have 1-2 pitches right now. Learn how to manipulate those. And, we can go back to the story that we talked about last week in our little promotional clips. I went and battled with the OG Batbusters with 1 pitch. I lost an extra innings, and to me, it was like, oh my gosh, I need another pitch. And my dad said, you know what? This game shows us, yes, you do. And it's okay now to do that because guess what? You just took the best team in travel ball to extra innings with 1 pitch. Right. So you know what it's doing. Now it's time to add something new to offset that. But we didn't go offset it just because, oh, hey, this pitch is going here. Let's throw something here.
I'm bored. I want something new.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the other thing you point out is, yes, people can say, oh, she's elite. She only needs 3 pitches. My best pitch that I'm known for now was the last pitch I mastered. Like, let that sink in. The last pitch I truly learned to master is what ended up being my best and most notable pitch. Meanwhile, the first pitch I mastered is still probably the best pitch I technically throw. I just didn't need to throw it as much because I had mastered other pitches as well. I didn't just throw other pitches, I mastered them. Like, can you imagine if I hadn't mastered my drop ball, how much more I would have had to use my rise ball instead of letting my rise ball be a surprise pitch because hitters forgot that I could elevate. So,
right. So what would you say then at the youngest levels? Okay, we talked about when you're first learning pitches, get a good foundation of mechanics. Make sure that foundation is there, yes. Right? We're on the same page with that.
Correct.
Number 2, master your fastball. After your fastball, what would you say after that?
I would say get a changeup and be able to, I would say master your changeup, but I think that's give and take because at a young level, you can just change speeds and people swing at it. So make sure you understand that mastering a changeup isn't just I'm getting strikes, but it's I'm able to locate it low in the zone, inside and out. Eventually, the older you get, you're going to expand the zone with it. But I think when you're like first throwing it, is mastering it is being able to just keep it low in the zone on both corners.
Right. Yeah. I mean, mastery is about, to me, also like expanding and growing. So mastery at first is going to be able, okay, let me just throw it for a strike. Okay, after that, let me be able to throw it on the outside corner. Next step, now let me be able to throw it on both sides of the plate. Now let me be able to work it low. Like there's going to be levels to mastery, but yes. You don't want to move on to level 5 when you haven't yet mastered levels 1 and 2. Okay, so then now pitch number 3.
I think this is semi-personal, like pitcher to pitcher. It depends. So I learned a corkscrew fastball growing up. So for me, learning a rise ball was easier than learning a drop ball. But if you have a downspin fastball, I think a drop ball is probably a more natural pitch next to learn. Whichever way you go, up or down, after that is a lateral pitch. Now you're also talking to somebody who didn't throw a screwball. Like you may see occasionally 1 or 2 like trying to make something tail out on videos of me, but I never truly threw or mastered or even was good at a screwball. But I think if you can go up or down and use your fastball and changeup, if you can have fastball, changeup, and something vertical, you should be good for a little while. And then from there, you can add a curve or if you want a screw, and then you can add the other vertical. But when you throw 2 vertical and then eliminate your fastball, which so many people do, and I'll tell you, I didn't really eliminate my fastball till high school. And that's just because all of a sudden then like the mastery of the curve came and I was able to throw that first strike. So I didn't need to throw a fastball outside to lefties anymore.
Yeah. Well, you replaced it with something else that you'd have mastered.
Correct.
Yeah, you
But I
didn't.
still threw it, but I still threw a fastball into righties because I hadn't mastered, I didn't like throwing a curve into righties, and I didn't throw, I'm trying to think left-handed, yeah, curve into righties. So instead I threw a fastball into righties because I had control of that and I knew I could spot it. So instead of saying, hey, I can throw my curve to a lefty, and yes, mentally it should, as a pitching coach, it should be the same pitch with the righty standing there, but it's not. So I threw a fastball to right-handers. Like it was just, you can still use it.
Yeah.
But if you eliminate your fastball, if you're only an up and down pitcher, tell me what is going to stay in the strike zone.
Yeah, what happens when hitters are not swinging, or you get, say you're throwing vertically up and down and your pitches are breaking out of the zone, they're in the back of the box, they've got a plan, they're not swinging at it. What's your plan B? You got to have a plan B.
Yes, exactly. And so if you eliminate your fastball and you're just going that route, then you're stuck.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we see so many pitchers. They get stuck and then they don't know how to throw their drop in the zone without it getting hit. And they're throwing so many balls that when they do throw it close to the zone, it's not getting called because you've just lulled everyone, including the umpire, kind of to sleep throwing balls that aren't competitive. And then you throw one up in the zone and we surprise somebody and maybe it's right above the belt. It's, again, borderline, but you haven't been in the zone all day. So you want the ump to give you something borderline when you haven't been able to throw strikes. So I think it's such a process, but I think fastball changeup, one vertical compared depending on which way you learned your fastball. Then you go to a horizontal, and if you need to go to the other vertical, but again, I think you should be able to get by, and I think so many pitchers can. They can get to college and succeed in college with 3 pitches. Now, one of those should be your off speed somewhere, but if you can locate lateral pitches and then a vertical pitch with an off speed, you're going to be able to do some really cool things if you can really locate. And that goes to a whole nother topic that we can talk about another day, because when you master it, it means you can locate it, which means your pitching coach can set pitches up. That could be another whole 30 minutes that we need to save for episode 2, 3, 500, whichever it is. And with that, it is a wrap of episode 1 of the Pitcher Perfect podcast. We hope you guys learned a little bit about mastery, why it's so important in pitching, why it's something that you should keep in mind as you journey forward in your pitching story, what the differences can be in being able to master something versus just learn and have multiple different things. Truly believe in mastery and its effect on making pitchers be elite versus just good or good enough. So we appreciate you guys joining us. Like, share, rate, review, do all the things, and send this podcast to your Pitcher Perfect friends. And we hope you enjoy us next time.